How much is a man worth when his family thinks he's worthless? 500,000. That's the divorce offer my father-in-law just slid across dinner. Family betrayal in a leather folder while my daughter watches. I'm 54, 9 years playing poor, 9 years hiding hidden assets they can't imagine. Tonight, the concealed fortune becomes public, and they learn what real poverty looks like. The leather folder hit the table hard enough to make the wine glasses tremble. Sterling Harrington, CEO, patriarch, my father-in-law for 9 years, pushed it toward me with 2 fingers, like signing off on a termination letter. $500,000, he said. His voice had that boardroom flatness. More than generous, Thaddeus. More than fair. This is one of those betrayal stories that sound too calculated to be true. But here's the thing about family betrayal. It doesn't announce itself with drama. It comes in leather folders at Thursday dinners. It comes while your 16-year-old daughter watches her grandfather try to purchase her father's disappearance. Evangeline's fork clattered against her plate. Are you kidding me right now? Evangeline, Genevieve said sharply. My wife. Her hand already on our daughter's arm, that automatic gesture of control I'd watched for 9 years, always smoothing things over, always choosing them. I opened the folder. A check, already signed. Sterling Harrington's precise blue ink, the same signature that had built Harrington Manufacturing into a $450 million company. You're offering me money to divorce your daughter, I said. I'm offering you freedom. Sterling cut into his steak, dry-aged, perfectly medium rare. We were at Rousseau's, the kind of restaurant where reservations take 3 months. Freedom from a marriage that clearly isn't working. Genevieve deserves a partner who can match her ambitions. You deserve to find someone more compatible with your lifestyle. By compatible, you mean broke? I said. Constance, my mother-in-law, set down her wine glass with a delicate clink. Darling, we're not trying to be cruel. We're being practical. You're a good man. You've been adequate. But our daughter needs more than adequate. Adequate. There it was. That word they'd been dancing around for 9 years, finally said out loud. I looked at Genevieve. She was staring at her plate, silent, like always. 9 years of driving my 2010 F-150 past their matching Mercedes in the circular driveway. 9 years of Costco groceries, while they had organic produce delivered from boutique farms. 9 years of retirement planning lectures from a man who didn't know I owned 38% of his company. I'd seen this coming. You don't survive 9 years with the Harringtons without learning to read the signs. The signs started small. Constance asking if I'd thought about upgrading my vehicle. Sterling mentioning job openings at Harrington, manufacturing, entry-level positions that paid $60K, like he was doing me a favor. The signs got bigger. Last Thanksgiving, 2024, just 2 months ago, Sterling had seated James Wellington next to Genevieve. Wellington, tech CEO, recently divorced. Someone you should get to know better, Jenny. Sterling made sure to mention Wellington's net worth. Twice. $340 million built from absolutely nothing. The subtext wasn't subtle. Look at what a real man accomplishes. Look at what you could have instead. But they never asked the right questions. Never wondered how a struggling consultant paid $35,000 annual tuition for Evangeline's private school without breaking a sweat. Never questioned why I didn't stress about money, ever. Never dug deeper than the F-150 and the off-the-rack suits. They assumed I was embarrassed, ashamed, that I couldn't answer because the truth was too painful. They were wrong. Every time my truck rolled up their driveway, that perfectly paved half-circle with the marble fountain, I saw the look in Constance's eyes. Disgust, thinly veiled as concern. They didn't know that truck was a choice, a deliberate, calculated choice to protect what I'd spent 23 years building. Undisclosed wealth they couldn't begin to imagine. Those hidden assets weren't about deception. They were about protection, about discovering whether kinship could exist without a price tag, about testing if this toxic relationship with her parents would poison our marriage. In 9 years, I'd learned something Sterling Harrington, with his corner office and his board meetings, would never understand: real wealth whispers, poverty screams, and fake wealth shouts the loudest. The Mercedes, the country club, the $400 bottles of wine. All of it was noise, desperate, insecure noise from people terrified someone might discover they're not as important as they pretend. My silence, that was power. And tonight, 9 years of silence were about to end. "You know, what's interesting, Sterling?" I said, folding the check in half. "You're offering me $500,000 to walk away from your daughter, but you never asked what I'm worth walking away from." "I think we have a fairly good idea," Constance said. She had that tone, the one that made "fairly good idea" sound like pathetically little. "Do you?" I pulled out my phone. "Because last Thanksgiving you seated James Wellington next to Genevieve. You mentioned his company 3 times during dinner. Wellington Industries. Tech infrastructure. $340 million valuation." Sterling's jaw tightened. "James is a family friend." "James is someone you thought was more suitable for your daughter than me," I interrupted. "Someone successful. Someone who built something from nothing, you said. Someone who started with just a good idea and $50,000 in 2002. I opened my phone to a specific folder. Old documents, scanned and saved. "That $50,000. I slid the phone across the white tablecloth. "That came from me. DataSync Solutions 2002. I was his first angel investor. Took 20% equity for $50,000 and 3 years of strategic advising. When Microsoft acquired DataSync in 2010, my stake was worth $24 million. The table went silent. Sterling picked up the phone, his face drained of color. "I made James Wellington," I said quietly. "And last Thanksgiving, he sat next to my wife, at your invitation, knowing exactly who I was, and said nothing, because you asked him not to. Didn't you, Sterling?" Sterling's hand trembled as he stared at the document on my phone. The DataSync acquisition papers. His carefully constructed worldview, the one where I was the struggling son-in-law, crumbling in real time. "You've known Wellington for 23 years, he said slowly. "You made him a multimillionaire, and you never said anything. You never asked." I took the phone back. "At that Thanksgiving dinner, when you were parading him around like a prize bull, talking about his success story, his self-made fortune, I sat there and ate my turkey, because I wanted to see if anyone would ask, if Genevieve would ask, if you'd show even a flicker of curiosity about what I actually do." "This is one conversation," Constance said, but her voice had lost its edge. "One investment 20 years ago doesn't... It wasn't one investment." I pulled up another folder. "Blackwell Capital LLC. That's my investment company. Structured as a Series LLC with separate cells for each investment. I've been an angel investor for 23 years. Started in 2002 with that $50,000 in DataSync. By 2010, my portfolio was worth $42 million. By 2016, when I met your daughter, it was $90 million. Genevieve's wine glass stopped halfway to her lips. $90 million, yes. I looked at her. Like most real-life stories about concealed fortunes, mine started with loss. My first wife, Caroline, died of cancer in 2013. We'd been married 12 years. And when she was gone, I realized something. I'd spent our entire marriage building wealth, but I never knew if she loved me or for what I could provide. I never got to ask. The restaurant noise faded into background. Just our table. Just this moment. So when I met you 3 years later, Genevieve, I made a choice. I didn't lie. I just didn't volunteer information. I drove the F-150. I lived in the modest house. I dressed like a man who worried about money, And I waited to see if you'd love me anyway. That's manipulative, Sterling said. That's self-preservation, I shot back. And you know what? For 6 years, it worked fine. We were happy. Then you started the pressure campaign, the job offers, the retirement lectures, the constant suggestions that I wasn't enough. And Genevieve, I looked at my wife. You never once defended me. Not once. She opened her mouth, closed it. Tears welled in her eyes. But here's where it gets interesting. I continued. March 2020. COVID hits. Your company's revenue drops 60% in 3 weeks. You're facing bankruptcy. You need capital, $8 million, and the banks won't touch you. Sterling's face went pale. How do you? Because I was there. I pulled up the next document. June 2020, an anonymous investor offers you an $8 million bridge loan, 15% equity. Your CFO, Alistair Montgomery, structures the deal. You take it because you have no choice. The company survives. I slid the phone across the table again. That anonymous investor was me. The silence was absolute. Even the waiters seemed to sense something and stayed away. Constance grabbed the phone. Read. Her hand went to her mouth. You saved the company, Sterling whispered. I saved your legacy, I corrected. But here's the part you missed. I'd already been buying shares of Harrington Manufacturing since 2018. Small purchases through various LLCs. Nothing Alistair would flag. By March 2020, I owned 11% of your company. The COVID loan gave me another 15%, plus minority protections. 38%, Genevieve said. She'd done the math. 38%, I confirmed, which means I'm the largest shareholder of Harrington Manufacturing. Larger than you, Sterling. I have effective control. The weight of that settled over the table like a fog. For 3 years, I said quietly, I've owned more of your company than you do, and you had no idea. Because you never asked, you never wondered, you just assumed the man in the old truck couldn't possibly be the man keeping your business afloat. Sterling was shaking, not with anger, with something else. Shock, humiliation, the sudden understanding that everything he thought he knew was wrong. The August 2020 family dinner, he said, when I toasted the anonymous investor, when I said they'd saved the company. I was sitting across from you, I said, eating your steak, drinking your wine, listening to you thank me without knowing it was me. Why? Genevieve's voice cracked. Why hide it? Why let us treat you like I was worthless? I finished. Because I needed to know. After Caroline, after losing her, I needed to know if someone could love me without the money. If familial loyalty could exist without financial incentive. If you, Genevieve, could choose me when you thought I was poor. And did I? She asked. Did I pass your test? I looked at her, really looked at her. 9 years of marriage, 9 years of silence at family dinners, 9 years of smoothing things over, choosing peace over partnership, prioritizing her parents' comfort over my dignity. No, I said honestly. You failed. Every time they diminished me and you said nothing, you failed. Every time Sterling lectured me about retirement and you didn't tell him to stop, you failed. Every time Constance gave me improvement gifts and you smiled like it was sweet, you failed. She started crying. Not dramatic sobs, just quiet tears streaming down her face. But here's the thing, I continued. I failed too, because this wasn't a fair test. I built this elaborate deception, this performance of poverty, and expected you to see through it, expected you to defend a man you thought was struggling. That's not love, that's manipulation. And these relationship stories always end the same way, with everyone losing because no one was honest from the start. I stood up, put $400 on the table, enough for dinner and tip. Monday morning, 9 a.m. Board meeting at Harrington Manufacturing. I'm calling a vote of no confidence in your leadership, Sterling. Alistair takes over as CEO. You retire with full pension and dignity. That's the deal. You can't, Sterling started. I can. I have 38%. I've spent the last 2 weeks talking to every minority shareholder. They're with me. 51% total. It's done. Thaddeus, please, Genevieve said. Her voice was small, broken. Don't do this. Why not? Because you're better than this. Because this is revenge, and it's going to hurt people who don't deserve it. Your father just offered me $500,000 to disappear from your life, in front of our daughter, and you think I'm the one hurting people? Evangeline stood up. I'm going with Dad. Evangeline. Genevieve reached for her. No, Mom. My daughter pulled away. You sat there. You let Grandpa do that. You always sit there. She grabbed her jacket and walked to the restaurant entrance. I followed. Behind me, I heard Constance say, This is insane. He's bluffing. He has to be bluffing. But Sterling said nothing, because Sterling had seen the documents, the stock certificates, the LLC structures, the proof of undisclosed wealth that made his $500,000 offer look like pocket change. I didn't look back. In the parking lot, Evangeline was already at the F-150. Can we just go? Yeah. I unlocked the truck. We can go. My phone buzzed as I started the engine. Genevieve. I didn't answer. It buzzed again. Text. You're really going to destroy my father's company? Everything he built? I typed back. I'm going to correct a power imbalance. There's a difference. Her. This isn't you. Me. You don't know who I am. You never asked. I put the phone away. Evangeline was quiet beside me, staring out the window as we drove. Dad? She said after a few minutes. Yeah? I always knew. I glanced at her. Knew what? That you weren't broke. That you were more than they thought. She shrugged. Broke people stress about money. You never did. You never cared when Grandpa made those comments. And your eyes. Whenever they talked about money, your eyes did this thing. Like you were holding back a smile. Smart kid. Too smart. Are you mad at me? I asked. For the test? For hiding it? I don't know yet. She was honest. 16 years old and more emotionally mature than most adults. I get why you did it. After Caroline. After losing someone and not knowing if they loved the real you. But Mom, she trailed off. What about Mom? She does love you. She's just scared of them, of disappointing them. It's not the same as not loving you. Maybe, I said, but fear that stops you from defending your partner. That's its own kind of household treachery. That's choosing safety over solidarity. We drove in silence. My phone kept buzzing. Genevieve, Sterling, Constance. I ignored them all. When we got home, the modest 3-bedroom house they'd called, charming with that patronizing tone, Evangeline went straight to her room. I poured myself a bourbon. Not $400 wine. Just good bourbon. The kind that doesn't need to prove anything. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I sat at the kitchen table and let myself feel it. All of it. 9 years of humiliation. 9 years of retirement lectures and pitying looks and have you thought about upgrading suggestions? 9 years of being invisible in my own marriage while my in-laws treated me like a charity case they'd generously taken on. And the worst part? I'd chosen this. Every day for 9 years, I'd chosen to stay silent, to let them believe I was struggling, to test whether Genevieve would love me anyway. But at 54, you start doing different math. If I'm lucky, I have 30 good years left, maybe 35. That's 12,875 days to build something real, to find genuine connection that doesn't require performance or pretense, to teach my daughter what self-respect looks like. I couldn't afford to waste another day on people who measured my worth by the car I drove. My phone buzzed again. This time, I looked. A text from Evangeline. Posted something. Thought you should see. I opened Instagram. She'd posted a photo from last month, the two of us at her soccer game, my arm around her shoulders. The caption, "Dad, I always knew you were more than they said. Love you." The comments were already rolling in. Her friends, confused, supportive, asking what happened. I walked to her room, knocked softly. "Come in." She was sitting on her bed, laptop open, probably doing homework or pretending to. "You didn't have to post that," I said. "I wanted to." She looked at me. "You stood up for yourself tonight. Finally. I wanted you to know someone sees you." I sat down next to her. "I'm sorry you had to watch that. The dinner, the check, all of it. I'm not." She closed her laptop. "I'm 16, Dad. I know what's going on. I've watched Grandpa treat you like garbage for years. I've watched Mom let it happen. And I've watched you just take it. Tonight you stopped taking it. That's not something to apologize for." "It's going to get messy," I warned. "The board meeting. Your mom and I figuring out what happens next. Your grandparents being angry." "Good," she said. "Messy is honest. The last 9 years were neat and polite and completely fake." Wise beyond her years. "Are you and Mom getting divorced?" she asked. "I don't know," I admitted. "That's up to her. I'm not the one who put that check on the table. But you're the one who hid secret investments for 9 years. I am. So you both messed up." "We did." She thought about that. "If you do get divorced, can I keep living with you? At least most of the time? If that's what you want, it is." She said it firmly. "I love Mom, but I respect you more. And right now, I need to be around people I respect." That hit harder than anything Sterling had said at dinner. My 16-year-old daughter choosing me not because I was rich, but because I'd finally chosen myself. "Thank you," I said. "For what?" "For seeing me, even when I was trying to be invisible." She hugged me then, just wrapped her arms around me and held on. And I realized something. This whole time, I'd been so focused on whether Genevieve could love me without money that I'd missed the person who already did. My daughter had seen through the performance from the beginning, had loved me not despite the F-150 and the Costco groceries, but because I was present. Because I showed up to her soccer games and helped with her homework and treated her like a person, not a trophy to parade around. She'd passed a test I never gave her. And maybe that was the real lesson here. Real-life stories about discovering hidden retirement accounts and secret fortunes always focus on the money, the big reveal, the power shift. But the actual story, the one that matters, is about who sees you when you're not trying to be seen, who loves you when you're not performing, who stands with you when standing costs something. Genevieve had failed that test. Evangeline had passed it without even knowing she was taking it. The board meeting happened Monday morning, 9 a.m., exactly as I'd said. I walked into the Harrington Manufacturing Conference Room with Alistair Montgomery at my side. Sterling was already there, looking 20 years older than he had at Thursday's dinner. Constance sat beside him, rigid. Genevieve wasn't there. The other board members, 6 of them, representing the minority shareholders, looked between Sterling and me like they were watching an execution. "Let's keep this simple," I said. "I'm calling a vote of no confidence in Sterling Harrington's leadership. Alistair Montgomery takes over as CEO effective immediately. Sterling retires with full pension, benefits, and the title of Chairman Emeritus. He keeps his dignity. The company keeps moving forward." "You can't just—" Constance started. "I have 38%, I interrupted, plus commitments from shareholders representing another 13%. That's 51%. I can. And I am." Sterling raised his hand, stopped his wife from speaking. How long have you been planning this? I wasn't, I said honestly. Until Thursday night, I had no intention of removing you. I was content to stay silent, let you run the company, let you think whatever you wanted about me. But then you put that check on the table, in front of my daughter, and I realized something. I looked directly at him. You didn't offer me that money because you thought I was struggling. You knew. Alistair told you in 2022 when we restructured the COVID loan. You've known for 3 years that I'm the majority stakeholder, and you still tried to buy me off. That's not ignorance. That's malice. Sterling's face confirmed it. He'd known. So yes, I continued, I'm removing you. Not because you underestimated me, but because you knew exactly who I was and still treated me like I was worthless. That's not a leadership quality I want running this company. The vote took 10 minutes. Alistair Montgomery became CEO. Sterling Harrington retired. Constance left without speaking to anyone. It was done. The business press covered it as a planned succession. Sterling even gave a statement about wanting to spend more time with family. Nobody knew about the leather folder, the $500,000 check, the domestic disloyalty that had sparked this entire shift. That was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks of Evangeline staying with me. 2 weeks of Genevieve's texts going unanswered. 2 weeks of learning to live in a house that suddenly felt both emptier and more honest. Then on Tuesday afternoon, I heard a car in the driveway. Constance's Mercedes. But Genevieve was driving it. She got out slowly, stood by the car for a long moment, then walked to the door. I opened it before she could knock. Hi, she said. Hi, can I come in? I stepped aside. She looked around the living room like she was seeing it for the first time. I forgot how much I actually liked this house. It's quiet, I said. Yeah. She sat on the couch. I took the chair across from her. Distance. I quit. Quit what? Harrington Manufacturing. Told Dad last week I was done. Cleaned out my office yesterday. I hadn't expected that. Why? Because I've been thinking about what you said, about choices. She looked at me. I chose you 9 years ago, at that coffee shop in Portland. I chose you when I thought you were a struggling consultant. I chose you when my parents made it clear they disapproved. I chose you. And then you stopped choosing me, I said. I did. She didn't argue, didn't defend. Every time they made a comment, every time they implied you weren't enough, every time they offered to help, I stayed silent. That was me unchoosing you, over and over for 9 years. You didn't know about my masked net worth. I should have asked. She cut me off. That's what keeps eating at me. 9 years, Thaddeus. 9 years, and I never asked about your work, your investments, your life before me. I just assumed. Like they did. She pulled out her phone, showed me a note. Times I should have defended Thaddeus. Christmas 2018, Dad's retirement planning lecture. Thanksgiving 2019, Mom's upgrade your wardrobe comment. Easter 2020, Dad's get a real job suggestion. Evangeline's 13th birthday, Mom asking if we could afford a real party. Last Thanksgiving, seating James Wellington next to me. Every single Sunday dinner for 9 years. I counted, she said, 112 specific instances where they diminished you, and I said nothing. 112 times I chose them over you. You didn't know what you were choosing. I think I did. She looked at me. I think part of me liked it. Liked having my parents think I'd married down. It made me special. The daughter who chose love over money. The romantic. The rebel. She wiped her eyes. Except it was all bullshit. Because I didn't choose love over money. I chose you thinking you had less money. That's not the same thing. And when you turned out to have unrevealed portfolios worth 200 million. 200? I interrupted. Alistair told me. When I quit. He said your 38% of Harrington plus your other investments total around 200 million. She managed a sad smile. So I couldn't even get your net worth right. The number doesn't matter. It does, though, because it proves I never asked, never cared enough to know. I was comfortable in my ignorance because it let me play the martyr. Poor Genevieve, married to a struggling consultant, so noble of her. Meanwhile, you were building an empire, and I didn't even notice. I hid it deliberately, I reminded her. You did, and that was wrong too. She looked at me directly. I've been seeing a therapist. Dr. Brennan, 3 sessions so far. She's tough, doesn't let me deflect. What does she say? That we both failed. That marriage isn't supposed to be a test. That healthy relationships require honesty from the start, not games and performances, and 9 years of wondering if the other person measures up. She was right. Dr. Brennan was right. I don't know if I can fix this, Genevieve said. I don't know if you can forgive me, but I'm here because I need you to know. I see you now. All of you. The consultant and the investor. The F-150 and the $200 million portfolio. The man who tested me and the man who's terrified of being left again. And? I asked. And I want to try again. If you'll let me. I didn't answer right away. Couldn't. Because this was the moment. The decision point. The place where I either kept punishing her for failing a test she didn't know she was taking, or I acknowledged my own role in this failure. Okay, I said finally. But Genevieve, if this happens again, if you ever start caring more about what they think than what we have, you tell me immediately. No smoothing over, no accommodating. You tell me, and we deal with it together. I will. And we're selling this house. She blinked. What? Too many memories. Too much of the old pattern. We start fresh, new house, new life, and this time, no more concealed fortunes. You get full access to everything. The portfolio, the LLCs, the investment strategy. We restructure as actual partners. What about your test? The test is over. I moved to the couch, sat next to her. You passed by showing up here, by quitting your father's company, by choosing us over them. That took courage, more courage than I showed in 9 years of silence. That seems too easy. It's not easy. It's terrifying. I took her hand, because now I have to trust that you love me, not test it, just trust it. And trust is harder than testing. Trust requires vulnerability, requires believing someone will catch you when you fall. She leaned against me. What about Evangeline? She stays part of this. No more splitting time. We figure out family together. All 3 of us. And we're honest with her. About the test. About the mistakes. About how we're trying to rebuild. And my parents? That was the hard question. They hurt me. Badly. Your father knew who I was for 3 years and still offered me money to disappear. Your mother spent 9 years making me feel inadequate. That's not something I can just forgive, because we're having a moment. I know. But they're your parents. They're Evangeline's grandparents. So we'll figure it out. With boundaries. Clear ones. They don't get to comment on my truck or my clothes or my career. They don't get to lecture me about anything. If they can't respect me, they don't get access to us. That's fair, she said. And one more thing. I pulled out a folder. Not leather, just plain manila. We do this right. Post-nuptial agreement. It protects both of us. Full financial disclosure on my side. Clear terms if things don't work out. No more secrets. No more games. She took the folder, opened it. You already had this drawn up? I had it drawn up 3 days ago, when I realized I wanted to try. But only if we did it honestly this time. She read through it. This is extremely fair. Almost too fair. I don't want you to stay because you're afraid of losing money. I want you to stay because you want to be here. The post-nup makes that choice real. Can we keep the F-150? She asked. I laughed. Actually laughed. Yeah, we can keep the truck. She kissed me then, soft, tentative, like we were starting over, which we were. 3 months later, we moved into the new house. Nothing extravagant. Just a 4-bedroom in a good neighborhood, close to Evangeline's school. She got to design her own room, her choice. Sterling and I met for lunch last week. Not at Rousseau's. At a diner off Highway 26. Coffee in thick ceramic mugs. Burgers and fries. I'm sorry, he said, for everything. For 9 years of being wrong about you. For that Thursday night. For knowing the truth and still trying to pay you off. I accept your apology, I said. Just like that? No, not just like that. It took 3 months, a lot of therapy for Genevieve and me, and watching you actually change how you treat people. But yes, I accept it. He nodded slowly. Alistair's doing well. Revenue's up 40% since he took over. I know. I see the quarterly reports. Right, of course you do. He picked up a fry. Genevieve says you're teaching her about investing, about the portfolio. Every week, Sunday mornings, we go through the holdings together. She's learning how money actually works, not just how to spend it. That's good, he said. That's really good. We ate in silence for a while. Comfortable silence. Money doesn't change people, I said eventually. It reveals them. I wanted to know what kind of man I'd be with money, and what kind of family you'd be around someone without it. We both got our answers. We did, Sterling said. And I didn't like mine much. None of us did. That's why we're here, trying to do better. I still drive the F-150. Genevieve offered to buy me something newer, something that matches my actual net worth. I said no. The truck runs fine, gets me where I need to go, reminds me who I am when the numbers get loud. We framed that check, the $500,000 offer, hung it in my home office next to 2 numbers written in precise calligraphy. $500,000, what they thought I was worth. $206,000, what I was actually worth. But those numbers don't tell the real story. The real story is about the gap between who we appear to be and who we actually are, about the courage it takes to bridge that gap, about the people willing to meet you halfway, even when the crossing is scary. Family betrayal taught me this. Keep your values, not your secrets. Be known, even when it's risky. And marry someone who asks questions, who digs deeper, who wants to see all of you, even the parts that don't make sense. Genevieve asks questions now, every day, about my investments, my fears, my hopes for Evangeline's future, and I answer honestly. No more tests, just truth. Sterling visits sometimes. It's awkward still. Getting easier. He's learning to see me. I'm learning to let him. And Evangeline? She's doing well. College applications, next year. Wants to study business. But not Grandpa's kind, she told me. The kind that builds things, the kind that sees value where others see problems. That's good business, I said. That's good life, she replied. Some people spend their whole lives judging books by their covers, measuring worth in visible markers, missing the whole truth hiding in plain sight. Some of us just keep reading, keep asking questions, keep looking deeper. Real-life stories don't always end happily, but they end honestly. This is mine, still being written, one honest chapter at a time.